and welcome to the Gig Stories podcast with me, Chris, and
me, the greying Welshman.
Hello, greying Welshman. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well, thank you very much.
Are you basking in the glory of Wales beating Scotland in the Six Nations at the weekend, or is that a bit too sporty for this podcast?
Oh, did that happen? Did it, Chris? What, the underdog? The underdog won.
The underdog. Yeah,
can't believe it. And we were well underdogs. Yeah, it was a good game, wasn't it? For any of our listeners that are inclined to watch a bit of rugby. It was a heck of a game. Leaves the championship wide open now, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It looks like the French team's the team to beat. My God, We've descended straight into sport geekery.
I know. We'll keep that for the sport. Although I was at Old Trafford this week, I could talk about how horrific that was.
Thoughts and prayers.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how was Mordor then?
Just too much sport for this podcast. We'll leave that for our sister, the Sports Stories podcast. Which, hey, I'll be honest, I could quite easily manage a few episodes of that.
Yeah,
I've been to quite a few live sporting events that are worth chatting about. Hang on, listener. Watch this space. Listen
something brewing. Space. Oh, exactly. The little cogs are turning in Mr. Winter's head.
And it's got to be said, listener, for this is only ever really for my entertainment, but I generally point it out to you lot that Chris does record from all around his house and makes clever use of duvets and various rooms. And I can confirm that he's coming live from today, the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was windy earlier on today, but it seems to have calmed down, and I'm basking in the glow of a wonderful sunrise.
So after 3 years or 2 and a bit of really intense Zoomery around the world, it's taken you this long to go, I'm going to do one of those funky background things. Look at me in the Golden Gate.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I only chose it because it looked like the Fourth Bridge. And I felt like I was going home. So, yeah. And who knows where I'll be broadcasting from next episode? Who knows? It could be anywhere. It could be, let me just check. It could be a sun-bleached desert island, or maybe even space.
The irony to this, listener, is that Chris has had his passport confiscated, being an illegal immigrant in Manchester and all that. So
it's probably for the best.
In fact, speaking of trends, this week you have wound me up a treat. So
in which ways did I do that?
On our social media, for those of you that have gotten caught up in the Wordle craze, which I'll be honest, I just quietly do. I've not once shared my results on social media, although I'm totally fine with that. I think that's
is that not like a tree falling in the forest if nobody's there to? How do we know that you've played it if you don't share it on Twitter?
And I'm happy to say that most days it's guess number 4 for me.
Yeah, that's about standard. I lost my my streak yesterday.
Oh,
didn't get it.
Oh, what was it?
I don't know. My short-term memory is absolutely screwed. So
was it Shake or something? It was something that just wasn't that difficult.
I can't remember.
I lost it too.
Yeah. Oh, good.
So yes, with that, getting caught up in that, you then introduce Wordle, Gig Stories Wordle.
Yeah.
And it's band names.
Yeah.
Now, I just sat there. I've not told you this, but I sat there when you told me you put it up. I just sat on the sofa thinking, how many bands are there that are only 5 letters long?
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, I am surprised. So very quickly, we went from Space to ZZ Top.
Space. So far we're on day 6 now. So obviously I'm not going to tell you what day 6 is.
Hang on, previous ones, if anyone's listening, I've just told you to, are they able to go back and do them, or do they disappear?
Oh, I don't know.
Right. So let's not say what they are then.
Let's not
Damn
say what
it.
they are. But
That's only just crossed my mind.
no, absolutely. But I've realized that I can use bands which have got the in front of them. You just remove the. Well, the wouldn't be a band because it's 6 letters.
6.
The. But if it was something like the. Oh well, I can't say anything because I'll give one away. But I will be using. So just say it was a 7-letter Wordle, and it would just be Beatles, for example. So
right. Well, I did just give away ZZ Top. So, listener, if you hadn't joined the Gig Stories Wordle yet, and beware, because Chris is very cunning. He's using those 5 letters in very cunning ways. ZZ Top, for example. So watch out, enjoy. I'm just going to enjoy, listener, seeing how long it goes on for, because I can't think of that many bands with 5 letters. So it's amusing. I can't wait to see where it goes.
I think we've got a good month. And then I might have to either increase or decrease the number of letters or just sack it off altogether.
Well, do I dare mention Quordle to you? Have you been caught up in that yet?
Do you know what? I tried it yesterday and it fried my brain.
It's brilliant.
Oh.
Just the past 3 days, I've gotten caught up in Quordle. And so, listen, if you know Wordle, Quordle is exactly the same, but 4 at the same time. So each guess goes up on all 4. Tactics and those words are slightly more obscure.
Yeah.
So the day you do Gig Stories Quordle, I will doff my cap to you.
Well, it made me laugh because people were kicking off because the guy, Mr. Wardle, who invented Wordle.
Right.
Yeah, he sold it to the New York Times
That's right.
a couple of weeks ago. And
can I just say he's a Welshman?
Is he really?
Thank you very much.
Wow.
I'll claim
people were kicking off saying, "Oh, it's not as good now that the New York Times have taken it over." And then I saw somebody commenting saying, "Have you forgotten that one of the days pre-New York Times, the word was knoll, as in the grassy knoll?"
Yeah.
And things weren't so rosy pre-NYT. So
it's so funny because they
give your head a wobble.
People were complaining the one day about Cork, Caulk.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so that's some kind of American thing. And I was like,
no,
I've been using Cork as I'm decorating this house. So it's
quite
smart.
I mean, for us too, because we're in the trade, we use Cork all the time. You know what I mean? Cork, roll plugs.
Anyway, welcome to the Gig Stories podcast.
Wow, that took a turn, didn't it? Anyway, hello.
So gig news, not loads of gig news, but we have been getting battered by various storms this week, and sadly, some gigs were cancelled, postponed. Idol's sellout gig at Cardiff Arena, bless them, is now having to be rescheduled for the 2nd or 3rd time.
Oh, really? And also, fans of Saturday Kitchen Live were disappointed this morning. Did you hear about this?
No.
So we're recording this on the Saturday, and when you're listening to this, it'll probably be Monday or Tuesday next week. Dave Grohl was the guest, and he couldn't get in. So they must be absolutely gutted. So I don't know if he's going to be Zooming it, or maybe he'll be doing it from the hill overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco.
Dave Grohl is supposed to be on Saturday Morning Kitchen now, this morning. Yeah,
and he's not.
We're on this.
Yeah. So anyway.
I love Dave Grohl.
Yeah. I'm reading his book at the moment. It's fantastic.
Oh, I got it for Christmas. It's on my shelf.
Oh, it's wicked.
I just want to let you know, listener, we are all about music on this pod, live music. But right now, it's snowing outside.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how's it snowing outside? What is going on in this world?
It's not snowing here, mate. Look behind me. It's beautiful.
Look at you.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous there in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Here in Salford, it's genuinely snowing, which means it links nicely into what we were saying. It's going to be a nice indoor day for me, apart from when I'm chauffeuring the kids another 3 times tonight. I'm going to open my Dave Grohl book. I've just finished my Bob Mortimer one.
Lovely.
And I got the Dave Grohl one for Christmas, so I'll start that today. But I think that'll be a nice future topic, because we speak about music books in today's episode.
Well done, Alex. That was lovely.
Thank you very much.
That was really silky.
It's why they don't pay me any bucks.
Yeah.
And that would be a good topic for us, because I do love a music book, and I've read some fantastic ones, and they've really sort of I like reading ones that I perhaps don't know about the artist. So I read Nick Cave, The Bad Seed, which is one of my favorite music books ever, as I started listening to Nick Cave and The Bad Seeds and The Birthday Party. So I was learning and falling in love with music as I went. And then as I was finishing that book, that's when I then went to see Nick Cave in Liverpool, which I have mentioned on previous episodes.
Yeah.
Which was in the Philharmonic Hall, and it was just him, a piano, and then occasionally for each song he'd have just a snare drummer, percussionist with very minimal, or just a violin. And it's one of the greatest gigs I've ever seen. So yes, I think going forward we'll talk more about favorite books.
The last one I read, music book, was Clem Catini's biography, well, kind of autobiography. It was based on a series of interviews that he gave, and it's called Through the Eye of a Tornado, which I think is a great, because obviously he was the drummer in the Tornadoes, but drummer on over 40 number one hit singles, and he talks about working with Paul Weller and with the Wombles, the tie-in with Mr. Mike back there, and it's a great book. I mean, amazing. It's very straightforward. It's very, and then I did this, and then I did that, and then I did that. But sometimes you just want that.
Yeah, because you just want the anecdotes. You just want to hear what they've done.
Yeah.
Was that Paul Weller my best mate?
Yeah, I love you,
Paul Weller.
Yeah,
love you, Paul.
Love you, Paul.
Paul, I know Paul's listening. I don't have to say if you're listening. I know he's a regular listener.
Yeah.
Love you, Paul. Love you.
He mutes me and just listens to me. Yeah.
So before we just quickly introduce the interview with today's guest, gig news. I'm noticing now this past week or two, we're really getting a lot of information from festivals now. So we're getting a lot of summer festival lineups. Kendall Calling has released theirs, and various other festivals have done so.
Green Man, have you seen the lineup for Green Man?
Green Man, that is a
Kraftwerk,
lineup, isn't it? That's brilliant.
Kraftwerk headlining.
That's such a great choice for Green Man as well. Green Man clashes for me with Kendall at the moment, but if you are able to get to Green Man and you've never been, it is honestly such a wonderful festival. And of course, the setting surroundings, they might just be the most beautiful in the country, festival-wise. I haven't been to all the festivals, so I can't say that hand on heart. And yes, I am a biased Welshman. But it's beautiful, Green Man. Yeah, but yeah, Kraftwerk, that would be fantastic.
And also Björk at Blue Dot as well. That would be quite something.
That is the one, because also they've got Groove Armada live, because often Groove Armada the past few years, or for quite a while now, have just done DJ sets, but they're doing a live set.
Yeah.
And for my booty, I know you've seen my booty shake, and it's a wonderful thing.
That's why I've got my Twitch, mate.
And so that Björk, Groove Armada, that and Metronomy.
Yeah, who are fantastic live, absolutely phenomenal live, and also Chris Hawkins.
Our wonderful buddy Chris Hawkins from Six Music. So yeah, Blue Dot, get on that. And then yesterday, as you know, I do have a love for Glastonbury, and I'm involved so often with Glastonbury. Taylor Swift mentioning that she sadly couldn't do Glastonbury. Now, whether she was supposed to have said that or not, we don't know. But that makes it interesting for us Glasgow goers, because the last lineup that should have happened before the pandemic was Kendrick Lamar Friday, Paul McCartney Saturday, and Taylor Swift Sunday. Well, right now, we are Billie Eilish Friday, Taylor Swift apparently saying no to Sunday. And I see that yesterday, Paul McCartney has announced an American tour, hasn't he? Which finishes just the week before Glastonbury. So I personally am fingers crossed that he still does Saturday night at Glasgow. But let me just try and find. It's very funny what he's called his tour. I think he's called. It's a play on. Oh yeah, that's it. He's called it the Got Back Tour because he said to America, "I promised you," so that he would come back. So a nice little tip of the hat to Get Back there. So the Paul McCartney Got Back Tour. So that leaves me and my kids, because we talk about this every day. Who's it going to be? Who's it? The Glastonbury lineup is generally announced in March. So Chris, just imagine you're going to Glasgow, or even just your own festival. I'm sort of asking you one of our questions here. Your Friday night is already taken. It's Billie Eilish.
Well, I love Billy Idol, and so I'm really looking forward to White Wedding and Mony.
Oh my gosh, this is such a dad podcast, isn't it?
His hoodies are very reasonable.
Oh my! Unless you're a regular listener, that is way over your head.
Oh yeah, sorry.
So, Saturday and Sunday, who would you want?
Who would I want headlining at my Glastonbury?
Yeah, who would you want on Saturday and Sunday?
Oh, I think I might have to think about that. So Billy Idol on the Friday.
And you have to think of that. And while you're having to think of that,
yeah.
Of course, the again, very relevant to me. BBC Six Music announced this week that the festival this year is in Cardiff.
Yes,
and it was great to see tickets literally boom disappear in minutes.
Yeah,
and Little Sims, Idols headlining in venues that I would frequent. So that is a great festival. In case there are any tickets still available, and I'm not sure there are, try and get yourself there. Obviously I love Cardiff, but it'll be a great weekend, and the lineup is just incredible there.
So I'll think about that, and maybe when we come back after this interview, I'll give you my two headline bands.
I like that. That. Okay,
we'll do that.
Waiting. I like it.
So our guest this week is the wonderful Adelle Stripe, who is a writer and author, and yeah, she's just about to release a book which she has kind of written about and with Fat White Family, Lias from Fat White Family, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. It just sounds fantastic. At the start, I just want to give a heads up to anyone who's listening with kids. So generally, our pod episodes are pretty family friendly. There's the odd little S-bomb here and there. There might even be an F-bomb, tucked away. But my goodness, there's a couple of C-bombs in this, which are completely unavoidable. It's not gratuitous, but because it's in the name of a band. But around about the hour mark, just get your helmets on, because there's a couple of C-bombs that are going to drop. But we talk about 10,000 Apologies, which is the book that is coming out this week. And it was a great chat, wasn't it? Oh yeah, loved it.
She has seen some gigs.
Yeah,
and just a little heads up, that warning that Chris gave you, it is actually band related, and I won't spoil the surprise, but oh my gosh, that left me reeling. What a lovely surprise.
Yeah.
What a life she's had in music. So strap in for this one and enjoy this episode with Adelle Stripe. Welcome to the Gig Stories podcast, and a huge welcome to today's guest, poet, journalist, author, Gordon Burnham Portico Prize nominee, winner of the Society of Authors Kay Blundell Trust Award, and the speediest typer in the world. It's the North of England's Doctor of Words, Adelle Stripe. How are you, Adelle?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for inviting me onto the podcast.
Oh, no, it's honestly our pleasure. And first of all, let's get straight to it. Do you have any proof, evidence of your speedy typing?
I don't, actually. I think it's probably a slight fabrication of the truth. I am very fast at typing. I haven't been measured yet. I'd probably fail in a secretary pool exam. But yeah, it's surprising when you have the right keyboard, how many words you can fit into a minute.
Do you do it with both hands and all fingers?
Yes.
Wow. I'm still one finger on each. Yeah, tongue sticking out my mouth slightly.
I think when you're a writer, your brain kind of clicks into this mode. So you have like you have however many thousands of words you have to type every day. And it almost feels like your brain is in this kind of peculiar state where you are just hammering the keys like Jerry Lee Lewis. And and by the end of the day, you might have written 3,000 words, and it's kind of, you don't know where it's come from. It's just kind of come from nowhere almost. And it's almost like your brain goes into a hypnotic mode when you're writing. So something else takes over. You're not entirely conscious of what you're doing when you're writing.
What do you find most rewarding then? Is it that kind of stream of consciousness, just getting it all down, or do you like the next stage, which is then looking at what has come out and going, oh, that right, okay, I like that bit, and I think
they're both equally, I would say, rewarding. Are both of those, and some writers prefer the editing part of it, some prefer just the kind of note-taking part of the process, but for me, I think the two go hand in hand. And a lot of the time when you're typing quickly and you're just splurging it all out, there's a lot of rubbish in there. So you get to the editing part of the process, and then all of a sudden you can make it better and you can ditch 50% of what you've written, and I guess then you're left with the core elements of perhaps a good story or a good article or a novel or a poem, whatever it is you're writing.
It's something I always wish I was able to do. I wish I was a writer. I'm not, and that's not me being, I'm not a good writer. I'm really not. I'm not a poet, not a writer. And it's
Alex, you're a great writer. You're really not.
No, really not. Leave it to others. But I really do admire that, and I am fascinated by that process. I love that you said that you're in sort of just a hypnotic mode, and I'm going to assume, here's a lovely segue, that you've been quite busy because you have your next book about to be released, and I would be excited to read it anyway because of the focus. But the fact that I saw so I think it must have been on one of your social media pages that you're about to release the year's rudest, wildest and funniest book, 10,000 Apologies, which is about the band Fat White Family. So has that been sort of the focus of your time of late?
It has been for the past 18 months. That's how long it took to write it. And the book really began just before lockdown kicked in. So I started working with Lewis in January 2020.
Right. And
we were supposed to be going to Algeria. So the band, Lewis and Nathan from the Fat Whites are half Algerian. And we were going to go out and stay with the band. It was going to be a book that was kind of like a road trip. I was going to go out, hang out with them for a few weeks in the desert, up in the mountains, and hopefully come out of it with some material to write the book with. And then it all went tits up when lockdown happened. We couldn't get out to Algeria, and I had to do the majority of the book down the line. So lots and lots of interviews by phone, lots of chasing people, waiting for them, to be ready to talk to me. A lot of it was done over the telephone. That's not to say that was of detriment to the book, because actually I got some really great material out of people, because everyone's locked down and they couldn't go out. So people started to remember things. They were less distracted, and they had particular memories of the band that they wanted to talk about. So that was quite useful. And I've always wanted to write a music book since I was a teenager. And I always swore that one day I would do it. And I just was waiting for the right subject to come along. And I wanted to kind of blow the idea of what a music book can be out of the water, because I've read a lot of conventional music biographies over the years, and some of them are quite boring. And I wanted to kind of make it more literary and more inventive and more exciting. Can I write something that's as exciting as the music? Can I write something that's as exciting as the live experience of this band? So that was the challenge, really, was to kind of create something on a level with that.
And wowzers, you've given yourself a challenge there as well.
Yeah.
You just saying those words, I mean, you couldn't have picked a more lively, eclectic bands to do that with. So why them? Why the Fat White Family? When did you think this is, or did you have a pre-existing relationship with them?
Well, I wrote a pamphlet for Rough Trade Books. Yeah. So Rough Trade Books do these pamphlet editions, and lots of different writers writing about many different subjects. And I was at Port Eliot down in Cornwall, which is a festival, and I was interviewing Viv Albertine about her book, On the Court by the River Stage, which is run by Heavenly Records.
Yes. Is that Robin?
Robin and Jeff and all of that crew.
Yeah.
And Nina from Rough Trade Books was at the festival, and she came up to me and she was like, "Do you want to do a Rough Trade edition for us on anything you want? But I know you're a music person, so do you want to do a music edition for us? Any style you want, I'll leave it up to you."
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, that's interesting. Maybe I will. And I had a little bit of a think about it. We had a chat, and she said, if you want to interview someone really famous, we can see if we can get them for you through Rough Trade channels. And so the first person I wanted to interview was Iggy. And I wanted to talk to Iggy about his art collection, because he's got a really incredible collection of Haitian art at his home in Miami. And I thought that might be quite interesting to talk to him about that. But then I got a bit freaked out. I just thought, I can't interview Iggy. Like, I'd just shit myself. And I think I'd just probably clam up a bit. I think it's just a bit too much of a hero. And I just thought I probably wouldn't perform very well in the interview. I think I'd be a bit starstruck. And so then I wondered about interviewing maybe somebody a little bit closer to home. And I'd seen the Fat White Family play a few shows, and they were just phenomenal. And I'd read their interviews, and they were the most dysfunctional band in the country at the time. And they reminded me a bit of the Happy Mondays. And I knew they had a unique story, and I'd already kind of seen that in the interviews that they'd done. And I thought, actually, maybe I'll do the Fat White Family. I'll see if they're up for it. So I managed to get in touch with them, and Leas and Saul agreed to let me come and interview them. So I did 2 long-form interviews with Leas and Saul, and they were really great. And we put the pamphlet out. It did very well. It was an Irish Times Book of the Year. This is just like a small pamphlet, and it was very, very well received, and people loved it. Lee Braxton, who's the publisher at White Rabbit Books, who you might have heard of, He read the pamphlet and then just sent me an email and was like, Adelle, can you turn this into a book? Can you make this longer? This is dynamite. And he emailed me at 5 o'clock in the morning because he was so excited about it when he read it.
Oh, that's a nice little bump, isn't it? 5 in the morning.
Yeah. So he was like, "You've got to cut it. Can you do this? Can you transform this into something bigger? Can you make it long form?" And I had a chat with Leas, and Leas was like, "Yeah, all right, let's do it." I didn't know at this point that Leas could write, and it's very unusual to find a frontman who can write well. I would say probably Julian Cope is the best one out there. Julian Cope, I mean, Head On, Repossessed, brilliant pieces of writing. Ian Hunter from Mott the Hoople, his book Diary of a Rock and Roll Star is really good. There are some examples of performers who can write, but not all of them kind of have a sense of style or honesty that is required. And then Leas started sending me his tour diaries. So he was emailing me from on tour in Europe with the Fat Whites, and it was like he was having a complete nightmare. And he'd send me like 2 or 3 paragraphs, like a missive from the tour bus. And it was so funny what he was sending me. I just thought, if I can lock him down for a stretch of time and just develop his writing a bit and give him a bit of encouragement, I think there's something special here.
Yeah.
And I was right, because actually he's contributed quite heavily to the book. We've co-written it. We've worked together. It's really collaborative. But he is a really good writer and very funny. I mean, the Fat White Family are a funny band. People who take them seriously do so at their peril, because you must take them with a pinch of salt, a very big pinch of salt.
Well, no, absolutely. I mean, I was watching the one of the videos on YouTube yesterday of the Fat White Manson family. Which I mean, I don't have many words, to be honest.
There's not many bands out there like that.
Yeah, that was one of Saul's side projects in like 2014 or something. But yeah, I mean, there's been 29 members of the band. They've all done lots of different projects. Some of them are together, some of them are separately. I mean, Adam Harmer, who's been in the Fat Whites from the beginning, really, he's the guitarist in Warm Dusha. Saul has Insecure Men. He works with the Black Lips. Leas had worked with the Moon Landings. Together, Leas and Saul had worked with the Eccentronic Research Council. Nathan has his Brian Destiny act that he's doing at the moment, which is really good. They're all very productive despite their dysfunctionality.
But also, I like the idea of chaos as well, because I've only seen them live once. I photographed them on the NME tour.
Oh, did you? What year was that?
2017, I think, maybe.
Oh, right, okay.
So it was them and Slaves, and it was supposed to be Amazing Snakeheads.
Oh, right. Was Dale?
Yeah, but
Dale pulled out.
Yeah, they split up, and was it Witches? I think Witches. We're on the same bill. Yeah, and the. Oh, sorry, my dog's barking. But after being to so many gigs, both as a punter and as a photographer, there aren't many times that I would go to a gig with a sense of trepidation. Did you know what I mean? And the fact that, as far as I knew, there was Slaves, Fat White Family, and Amazing Snakeheads. And I thought, this is going to be a dark evening, or it's going to be some kind of evening anyway. And it turned out to be so. I mean, it was pretty full on. But yeah,
did you get some good photographs?
Kind of. I seem to remember there was a lot of red lighting, which is always a nightmare when for a photographer, because you can't really do much with them. But yeah, I think so. I need to look back, and I'll pop a wee gallery on our website.
Well, I mean, of course, like Dale from the Amazing Snakeheads ended up joining the Fat Whites.
Did he?
Yeah, he was in them. So there was a period when Saul wasn't in the band and was on gardening leave.
Right.
And Dale joined the band and stepped in. And that was the first time I ever saw the Fat White Family. And it was at the Trades Club in 2015 on the Songs for Our Mothers tour. Right. And Dale Barkley blew the venue apart. I have never seen anybody perform like that. Him and Leas together were just incredible. That gig is one of the best gigs I've ever seen, and I've seen many, many gigs over the years. Yeah. But the Fat White Family in 2015 in Hebden Bridge, there were, I mean, just to give you a little bit of an overview of what happened that night. We live in Hebden Bridge. There are many problems with flooding around here. So we have a very steep topography in the valley. You'll have seen the images of our town getting flooded in the media. So we are known for it. The night that the Fat Whites performed, they turn up and the flood sirens are going in the valley. And when it starts to flood, we have the Second World War air raid sirens going on.
Yes.
And it's really eerie.
Wow.
And they echo all down the valley. And it's actually quite frightening because you know the water's coming. And if you live at the bottom of the valley, you're in trouble if you hear those sirens. So you have to clear your house out. So the Fat Whites turn up and they'd been in the van smoking DMT. So that's a very strong ayahuasca substance, an extreme psychedelic that is also known as the businessman's lunch trip, because it only lasts for half an hour. And you could potentially, if you were working in your call center, you could go off, smoke some DMT at lunchtime, and then be back at your desk half an hour later. And
you could have 15 minutes either side.
So they'd been blasting DMT on the way here, and they get out of the van, and there's these air raid sirens going off all around them, and they're like, "Oh, what's going on?" They turn up and they play one of the most wonderful shows. And it's one of these gigs that you read about when you're reading like England's Dreaming or Lipstick Traces or any of these books that are kind of about punk or the history of punk. And you read about these shows and you think, fucking hell, I wish I'd seen a gig like that. I wish I'd been there. This was one of those gigs.
Yeah.
We had no preconceived ideas about what they would be like. I actually thought they'd be pretty crap, and I thought they might be a bit haphazard. So I didn't actually think they were going to be any good. Because of the flooding, half of the audience couldn't get to the show, so it was sold out. But it had cut all of the train tunnels off from Manchester and Leeds because of flooding on the line. So it was only half full, even though it was fully sold out.
Yeah.
So they ended up letting in loads of like the local farmers came down off the tops, and like the sort of hippies and the hillbillies. So it's like and all the old punks. People were just coming in. They were letting them in to fill the venue up. So you had this really sort of odd mix of people in the audience, and they came on and they set the place on fire. Like, I just, there's this whole thing about breaking the fourth wall, about Artaud's Theatre of Cruelty. Jim Morrison did it. He was the first one to jump into the audience. And Leas did it. He went down into the audience. He was like dancing in the audience. It was a really heavy atmosphere. Dale Barkley is a great guitarist, a wonderful singer, actually. I mean, he reminded me of Alex Harvey.
Wow.
It's like his voice was like Alex Harvey's. And so Dale was playing, and then this idiot in the audience gets up onto the stage and he tries to pull Dale's guitar off him. Now, Dale is like Dale used to be a stonemason. and he had big stonemason's hands, and he was a tough Glaswegian, you know.
Whoa.
Do not fuck with Dale Barkley.
Wow.
This guy tried to pull his guitar off him. So, well, that went well. So Dale ended up like smacking this guy off the stage. Then he splattered into the audience, one of the audience members, and he was really inebriated. So I think he'd probably had a fair few pints before he got into the gig. And then there was a big pile on. So then the audience started, like one guy in the audience started booting this guy who was down on the floor. They had to stop the gig. It was just proper chaos. It was like a proper punk gig where the audience started like beating each other up. The band had to stop. Everything had to be calmed down. But it was just completely wild.
Yeah.
And I watched this show from the side, and it was like one of the great performances, you know.
Yeah.
And Lewis was such a natural. He's such a brilliant frontman. It was completely spontaneous. None of it felt like it was scripted or acted. You watch some performers and they're obviously like going through the motions, but they weren't doing that. And the band themselves admit that was probably the best show they ever played.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I just happened to be there. I was really lucky. And everybody who went to that show walked out of there, and it's gone down in local history as like one of the great shows. You know, like the Sex Pistols at the Free Trade Hall in Manchester.
Yeah.
Everyone claims
Everyone was there.
Yeah, like around here, the Fat Whites in 2015, that's the show. You know, so it's gone down in folklore.
I love that about a gig. I love that you can have that chaos, but still think this is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. And I think what makes that is genuine, is there's a genuine feeling performance from the artist.
Yeah.
It's not set up, it's not choreographed, and
you don't know where it's going to go, so it's unpredictable.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And you can feel that as well. You can feel that, hang on, this could go anywhere. Yeah. And there's so many artists like that. I was lucky to see some of the early Mannix gigs where that was very much like that. And then you have bands like At the Drive-In that were very similar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were pretty similar. Like they were quite explosive.
Exactly. And you were talking about books and writing, and one of my favorite books, and it's more not just the writing, it's more the story of it, is Nick Cave, The Bad Seed. Yeah. And I read about those early Bad Seed gigs. Yeah, and exactly. What you've just said there, if we hadn't said it was Fat White, yes.
Yeah, I was watching them and I thought, this is like the birthday party.
Exactly,
they're like birthday party, or they're like Gun Club, or they just had that kind of edge to them, that dark edge, but also quite garagey and also a little bit all over the place, but it all kind of it just worked. Yeah, and
it's so visceral as well. Yeah. And I remember reading, some of those stories where at the birthday party gigs, Nick Cave would smash an audience member over the head with the mic or kick him in the face. Yeah, and as you read and you're thinking, that's not criminal. It was real punk raucous, and then it's all that is happening everywhere.
There was like a visceral violence to what they did.
Yes,
and I think with Lewis, watching him on stage, I was trying to kind of work out what it was about him that was compelling, and to me, it's like he seems like he's lost, but also entirely in control at the same time, and you never know which one it is. Do you know what I mean? He seems lost and almost not wanting to be there, but also wanting to absolutely own it at the same time. It's a really curious thing that he does, and I don't really want to pin it down. I don't want to know what it is that he does, because it would probably lose it.
Well, he transforms. So actually the Lewis off the stage is very different to who you see on the stage. He becomes something different when he gets up there. So, we will sit down and write. And he's very, he's actually quite studious, Lewis. He likes reading. He likes writing. That's what he does in his downtime. He's not this rock and roll animal that you see on the stage. He's very different, and actually is quite, I would say he's quite introvert, like in comparison to what you see on the stage. He just happens to be a very good performer, and he can bottle that, and then he can, as soon as he gets on the stage, he can just turn into something else.
I think there's a thread there, and I think that thread that links them is that intelligence. And I don't want to sound like a twat or patronize anyone or suggest what intelligence is, but for me, that shows they're genuine, and there's an activism to it. So to go back to my staple, which is the Manics, it wasn't just chaotic. Off the stage, they were studious, they were intelligent, they were able to back it up. And I said in our last episode just a few weeks ago, I saw Idols in Manchester, and they have a similar energy. And the gig for me the other night was very evangelical, and Joe, the lead singer, is very similar. There's a genuine performance in him, and he becomes someone else. And then speaking to him off stage, it's very, very well read, very knowledgeable, and can back up what he's singing about and and I think that is a thread with those kind of performers like Nick Cave and the Fat White. They are, yes, there may be chaos, but there's a real intelligence to it all.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, we're going to take you in a time machine now, and take you back to when you first fell in love with music. What was it? What was the trigger, or was it something that was always around you when you were growing up?
Yeah, it was always around me growing up. So my parents were into music, and they had a record player and a collection of vinyl, not an enormous collection, but quite a comprehensive one. And we didn't really have any books in our house. We weren't a kind of cultural household, let's put it that way. My mum and dad, the only thing they really had was music in the house. And actually, I consider that to be the start of my education. My cultural education was through music. And so there's a photograph of me with big headphones on when I was about 3. And they just used to let me sit there, and I would listen to their music, from beginning to end. I would get all the vinyl out, and I would put the records on and look at the record sleeves, open them up, like look at the vinyl, whatever was etched in the vinyl. I would look at all of the photographs and read the lyrics. And it was like a whole world opening up to me. So that was from being probably as young as I can remember. It's probably from the age of 3.
And what was in their collection?
Okay, so my mum really liked Scott Walker. So I used to listen to Scott Walker. My parents were really into sort of soul music. So they liked a lot of the Motown artists, and like Marvin Gaye. We had quite a few of his records. Also some more kind of naff rubbish 80s stuff. So it'd be things like Elkie Brooks. Was it Bread? Do you remember Bread?
I loved Bread.
Yeah.
That was in my parents' collection.
Yeah.
Love a bit of Bread.
So what's his name? Gates. Can't remember his first name. Gates.
Yeah, David
Gates. That's it. Yeah. What a songwriter.
Yeah.
Yes.
But also, like, it would be like 10cc, Hall and Oates, and Carly Simon.
Yeah,
wow.
I see there's some solid stuff in here, Adele.
There's solid. Any Dr. Hook at all?
Probably, actually. But my mum's great love was the Moody Blues. And so we had every Moody Blues album. And I was talking to my sister about this recently, and she was laughing her head off. So what I did when I went to grammar school, so I was about 12 years old, and they asked us to write a poem. And I copied some of the Moody Blues lyrics down, and I handed it in, and I pretended that I'd written this great romantic poem. And the teachers were like, we didn't realise you were so talented. And I had to keep this lie up for about 3 weeks. And they asked me to bring another one in. So I had to write another Moody Blues poem. And then I was busted. Like they busted somewhat. I think one of the teachers at school was a Moody Blues fan, and I got absolutely busted for it.
Oh wow!
And much to my embarrassment.
You're not the only person to do that, Adele. I'm going to out him because I know he's a listener. One of my very best friends, Ray, he did exactly the same. We grew up in Cardiff, and on St. David's Day we have an Eisteddfod, and you have to write poems for.
Oh, yeah.
And he ripped off the Pet Shop Boys.
Brilliant.
All the police. There's a madman around.
Yeah. Did anyone notice?
I think later on they did.
Wow. Which one did he do? West End Girls or something?
Yes.
Was it?
Ooh, yeah, not like a B-side or anything.
No.
Yeah.
One that was at number 1 for 5 weeks or something. Yeah. Wow. Rookie mistake.
So
Yeah.
so Adele, when were you aware of live music then? In sort of any form, when did that sort of come
Well,
into
I was probably like you. I was Top of the Pops obsessive.
Yes.
So I used to watch that every week, and I would also listen to my dad talking about the gigs that he'd been to when he was younger. So my dad was very much into rhythm and blues, like in the 60s, and he saw a lot of those great acts. And he would talk about that. One gig in particular he would talk about with reverence, which was seeing Jimi Hendrix in Leeds, which must have been about 67, I think, at Leeds Odeon or Leeds ABC. And my dad, it was just for him like probably the greatest moment in his life was seeing Jimi Hendrix play.
Wow.
And so I became aware of live music through Dad talking about it. We didn't have any live music venues in the town where I grew up. It was a bit of a crappy northern brewery town. So we didn't have any cultural provision. But I had some friends who had older brothers who maybe were in a band in the town. So you start to become aware of music at that point. But the first gig that I went to was the Moody Blues, and I was about 10. Brilliant. And my mum took me to Halifax Victoria Hall, and I'm not sure if it was the Moody Blues or it was Justin Hayward and some of the Moody Blues were playing.
Right, okay.
And my mum only wanted to really go and hear them do Nights in White Satin. And the rest of it was quite boring. And I remember my mum sort of like sighing. She sat on the chairs and she was sighing. So I think that was the first gig that I went to. And maybe I was about 9 or something, like 9 or 10. So it wasn't very punk.
Well, Moody Blues, when you mentioned Moody Blues, it's just triggered a memory in me because my folks were well into the music, but they had a compilation LP and Moody Blues was on it, and it was a song called Go Now. And honestly, it just takes me right back, and I love that song. Absolutely love it.
I mean, that was kind of quite early on in the Moody Blues career. I mean, they went very prog later on with Threshold of a Dream and all of those.
This was definitely kind of mid to late 60s, I think.
I'm loving this detailed Moody Blues chat.
Yeah,
and I like this is quite nerdy.
I'm really sorry. Anybody who's
like
listening.
It's a step up. It's a step up from Shawaddy Waddy, which is where it normally descends to most episodes. So happy to have Moody Blues carry the baton.
and just a reminder, if you've not heard the episode with Catherine Williams, her anecdote about the Shawaddy Waddy as a child is an absolute belter.
And it's not safe for children. Okay, so
Okay.
just approach with caution. So what was your first punter gig? The one where you bought the ticket yourself and went, right, that's my band, I'm going to go and see them.
Yeah, I think it was the wedding present at the Duchess in Leeds. I must have been I was maybe about 14 or 15 or something, and my friend's band was supporting the wedding present, so
Wow.
I went to see them, and it was really exciting.
Was that when they were releasing a single a month?
Yeah.
Amazing.
That must have been about 91.
Yeah, no, I remember, because
91.
I've got a couple of friends who went to see them in the Scottish borders. They were touring everywhere. And single a month
and those singles are great actually from that year. I really rate them. I think they still sound good. But yeah, I think it might have just been after George Best, and they did the singles. So it was during that period. Right. Yeah. So
Too much apple pie. I love it.
And you have to go see the wedding present in Leeds. You know, that's like the place to see it. And the Duchess was the first venue that I really fell in love with, and I used to go pretty much every week from being about 15.
Brilliant.
And I attended it religiously. So I saw loads and loads of bands there, and that was it for me. You know, that was my hobby from being a teenager.
That's a great first gig. What were your friends' bands called?
My friend was in a band called the Bedbugs, who were like, no one will have really remembered them outside of Leeds, but he played the drums. And around that time, it was before Britpop happened. So I remember the new wave kicking in, and we would go and see bands like These Animal Men and Smash. We used to go out in York quite a lot, and there was a venue called the Bonding Warehouse and one called Fibbers, and bands like Shed 7 started coming through. And I remember this all happening very quickly. And then we went to see, I remember Oasis coming through, and they sold out at the Duchess, and then we went to see them at the Irish Centre, and Whiteout was supporting them, I think.
Oh, great band.
And I remember seeing Elastica at the Duchess, Pulp, who were magnificent, actually. Pulp at the Duchess were...
At the Duchess?
Yeah, which was like Pulp, I think around the time of Razzmatazz and Babies. So it was just before like Britpop really took off.
And that's my favourite Pulp. I'm not being that idiot, but...
Yeah, that period, Sheffield Sex City is the best Pulp song for me. But yeah, I remember going to see them there. But another band who I also thought were really great at that time was Verve. And Verve played at the Duchess, and I saw them. And this was when Richard Ashcroft was dancing barefoot and throwing glitter at the audience. So this was Storm in Heaven, and they were really psychedelic, and they were really, really wonderful. They went downhill after that, but I remember at that time they were really on fire.
Again, I agree. Not trying to be cool, but that earlier, I saw them sort of live throughout their career. And you're right, those earlier performances where it was psychedelic. I don't know if I'd use that word, but you're correct.
It sounded like Can, they were like Can.
Exactly.
And I remember they came out and like Four Horsemen was playing Aphrodite's Child, and it was just like really like quite exciting at that time.
Yeah, I was a big fan of History and that kind of time. I think that was about the limit of This Is Music. And
I went to see them play at Hague Hall, and John Martin supported them.
Really?
Oh, that was their big gig, wasn't it?
Yeah. So like I can't remember how it happened, but I ended up at Hague Hall, and I'd seen them right at the beginning, and I thought I'd go and see them, which was effectively like at their peak. It's always like quite good to do that, I think, when you've seen a band kind of grow, and it's nice to go and watch them play a massive show. So we went to Hague Hall, and I remember John Martin came out on stage, and he had a steel guitar, And I think he had one leg at this point, and he had a rain mac on, and he came out and played, and he got booed by all these idiots in the audience. And he was playing solid air. I mean, it was beautiful. I didn't know who he was, but I remember just being blown away by this sound. And he was far better than Verve were that day. John Martin was incredible at that gig. And I was so embarrassed because there were so many fucking morons behind me. Sorry for swearing there.
No,
but there were just complete idiots in the audience. And I just thought, I don't want to be here. Like, this guy is obviously an incredible musician, and no one's showing him the respect that he deserves.
Yeah.
You know, gigs can be infuriating, can't they?
Yeah, that should have been a privilege. Seeing John Martin perform Solidaire, and that he is just unbelievable.
Well, if you hear him play May You Never, and you know, name me a song that's better crafted than that, and I'll be surprised.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, but then you're surrounded by these muppets who are like throwing bottles, and you just think, I don't want to be here. You know, it was really unpleasant.
That was the edge that came with a lot of those bands, didn't it? In Britpop, the Verve,
Oasis. Yeah, they're all like, everyone's like coked up. They've had loads to drink. It's like they're at the football or something. These lads, you know. And,
now you've just blown my mind for the past few minutes, because that was just, I really enjoyed the past few minutes there. Because of, you just spouted a load of bands that I got really excited about, and I've just got to go back, purely self-indulgent, because if anyone mentions them, Smash, I need to talk with them, because me and my friend Shanti, a few of us back at home, Seth, in Cardiff, we saw them various places, including the Welsh club, Club Ivo Bach, one of my favourite venues, and Smash were incredible. And you got to see them live, did you?
I saw Smash a few times.
And they were another one of those bands that there was just sort of mayhem and chaos, and just those being in the audience for those gigs. And I think criminally underrated. It was such a shame that they didn't continue.
It was really quite exciting. It was very exciting at the time, being like 15, 16, go to see those bands.
And These Animal Men.
Yeah, I mean, I loved These Animal Men.
Yeah, fabulous.
There were a few in there that really deserved to be bigger. I mean, you mentioned Whiteout, and I was a big fan of Whiteout. I didn't get to see them live, but again, kind of beautiful, kind of Beach Boysy, sunshine pop. Jangle. I just loved them. I thought they were great.
They sort of passed me by. I knew who they were, and so are they? Is that someone that I should go back and revisit?
Glasgow. I think they're Glasgow. They're certainly Scottish band. I'm pretty sure they were Glasgow, but they supported Oasis in the previous tour before. Definitely, maybe, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
And and so got a bit gutted that I missed them, but there's some lovely stuff by them.
And you mentioned one of my favorites, Shed 7 there.
You know, they used to Shed 7. Like, I used to go see them playing Fibbers, and I knew them a bit. I really liked Tom, actually, and
he's lovely.
Tom was a sweetheart, and I knew them all because we'd see them in the pub, and we all used to drink down the Lowther together, and they always used to play a cover of Iron Maiden, Can I Play With Madness? That was, and honestly, they were really good at it. It was, I always thought it was the highlight of the night when they did Can I Play With Madness? So if ever you go and see them, that's what you should shout at them from the audience, because that's quite a niche. That's a niche old school York reference.
Well, it's I Am the Resurrection at the moment, so that's
no, it's changed.
Has it changed now?
Yeah, it's Elvis's Suspicious Minds.
Oh,
is it?
Yeah.
Nah, I'm more of the Iron Maiden era myself.
Yeah.
But
I'm just going to go back again, but Alex and I went to Shed 7 in Halifax last year, and Wedding Present were one of the support bands, and they were absolutely on fire. So
They were brilliant.
David Gedge
Absolutely
and the
brilliant.
Wedding Present were fantastic as well. So
Yeah.
it's all
Amazing.
It's all coming together.
Amazing.
I love neatness. I like a bit of neatness. So
Now,
great.
can we get a bit geeky here, just in case, because we do like to check. So your first chosen gig there, you said it was your friend's band. You went to see the Wedding Present. Do you happen to have still the ticket stub?
No, I never kept that stuff.
So have you ever done that over the years? Kept the ticket
I
stubs?
probably did when I was a teenager, but
Yeah.
I don't have any of that stuff anymore because I've got quite a big record collection,
Right.
and I've sort of DJ'd on and off for years. So, and I used to run a venue down in London. I was a music programmer.
Yes.
And I guess just over the years, I've had to just throw a lot of stuff out. So no,
Yeah.
I didn't really keep anything at all.
So what you're saying, Adele, is that you haven't collated all your ticket stubs from the years, put them into a scrapbook, and then written it up into a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet. You've not done that, have
No,
you?
but I think I might have a couple that I kept from the 90s, unlike you two.
And, well, let me just say
albums.
this: I'm proper geeky, but I have not got an Excel spreadsheet of all my gigs, Adele. But someone has.
Don't knock it, Alex. Don't knock it. It was in lockdown. It was in lockdown, and I was just doing a bit of research when we were starting this podcast, and I had a look through the tickets and thought, this isn't sustainable. Me having to flick through here. What I need is them all in front of me, so that I can then search by venue, by town, by year, by month, by band.
That's commendable.
Thank you.
That's commendable. Your level of commitment.
Yeah, commitment's one word for it. Yeah.
That is commendable, Chris.
Yeah, I'll take commendable any day. That's great.
Now, I genuinely wanted to ask you about your time in London. You just mentioned it there. Where exactly was it?
It was on Brick Lane. So
Fab.
Yeah, I used to run it was called the Vibe Bar, and it was like a venue in the Truman Brewery on Brick Lane, and it had like a courtyard out the front. And I used to put gigs on inside. It held about 200 people. I put all sorts of bands on. I had like gigs happening maybe 3 or 4 days a week, 3 or 4 nights a week.
Wow.
And all sorts of music, and all sorts of bands. Some of it was pretty wild.
That becomes a real job then.
Yeah, it was my job.
Programming, and it's a real job. Does that spoil your love of live music? Does it sort of take the sheen off it? Like, I love pizza, but I don't want to work at Pizza Hut.
Yeah, it did at the time. So it took a long while to heal, I think, after that. So you get sick of being called out because the sound's gone and we need the leads reconnecting into the amp at 10 o'clock on a Friday night, or the deck's broken, or like one of the band members is kicking off because there's always something. It's not an easy job, and you're firefighting metaphorically a lot of the time. And I think I got to a point with it where it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was trying to sort something out with some kit that had gone wrong. And I remember looking out across the dance floor, and I just thought, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm sick of it. I'd rather be in bed. I don't want this life anymore. And it become a job rather than something that I really loved.
A passion.
And so I jacked it all in, and I went to university. So when I was 30, I became a mature student, and I went to learn how to write, and walked away from music. And I haven't really returned to it until recently. I had managed a band as well. So I was running a venue, and I managed a band called Selfish Cunt, who were like this kind of outrageous, raucous electro-punk band during the Shoreditch period, sort of around the Libertines era.
They made quite a ripple, did they not?
Yeah, they did a single called Britain is Shit.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
I totally know them. And you were the manager.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So like not for very long, and I wasn't very good at it, may I add. I don't think I'm really cut out to be a band manager. But yes, I mean, Martin, the frontman in Selfish Cunt, is one of the great frontmen of that period. He was fantastic. And to have a kind of queer Blackburn working class outrageous frontman was a rarity then. And it's a rarity now, you know, to be fronting a punk band who sounded like the Dead Kennedys, you know.
Yes.
I mean, they were really ferocious, and I was very excited about them.
How did you go about promoting them? Because I'm guessing that the name would make them quite a difficult sell. I'm just spitballing here, but
yeah. You're never going to go very far with a name like that.
No.
You're not going to be getting radio play. Let's put it that way.
No, when there's no radio edit of the name, is there? You can't do a radio edit of the name.
No.
But they were often in the NME though, and the music.
Yes, they were. Yeah,
the music press were always, you know, bringing them up because of the reputation that they were getting with the live gigs, and that's what I find really interesting. And maybe it was because of the name, but I know them because of their live reputation, not because of their recorded music.
Yeah, they were a truly great live act.
Yeah.
They were really great.
So we're going to take you into the quick fire round, and the answers don't necessarily have to be quick fire. We play fast and loose with this. But we'll see how we go. So the first question is your favorite live band.
My favorite live band. Well, I would say probably the best live band I've seen, rather than performer, would be Iggy and the Stooges. And I saw them doing Funhouse in Hammersmith, probably 2004. With the Ashton brothers, and
wow,
you know, they're the real deal, aren't they? They were incredible. So the Stooges, definitely. I was very lucky to see them at that point. The other performer would have to be Prince, and I saw Prince at the MEN Arena, and it was a random gig that I went to. I got guest list tickets last minute. Not a massive Prince fan. My sister is. She said I had to go. So me and my husband, Ben, we rocked up last minute. Prince was just unbelievable. Prince is like not a human being. He's not of this earth. Prince is the musician that all musicians should aspire to be. He was incredible.
Was that with Third Eye Girl?
Yeah.
Right, I was at that gig as well at the MEN.
I mean, just like I can't get my head around how somebody can play so many instruments and write so many wonderful songs and perform like that at the same time. It's like the whole package.
Yeah, I promise you, God's honest truth, if my son was here now, he'd be in trouble because he should be in school. Yesterday, he was very much excited for the Super Bowl halftime show. Last night, which was going now. He watched it this morning before school, which was Dr. Dre and Eminem and Mary J. Blige, and Kendrick Lamar. I actually yesterday sat and showed him Prince's halftime show
in the pouring rain.
Said, look, I said this is one of the greatest halftime shows ever because it was hammering. It was storm weather. And there's an interview with the event manager or the stage manager who in the morning just phoned Prince and was like, have you seen outside? And Prince went, yeah, just make it rain heavier. And the guy's like, what?
Did he do Purple Rain?
Yes. And if you watch it, well, the balls on the man, if you watch that halftime show, that you only have, was it 11 minutes or something daft like that?
I think it was about 14, something like that. They did last night anyway. They had about 14 minutes, I think.
He throws away. he throws away 2 songs. He does All Along the Watchtower, and he does Foo Fighters, the best. What's that? Is that called The Best? You give me the best, the best,
Yeah,
the best of you.
best of
He
you.
does.
Yeah.
He just does 2 covers, and you're like, what? Because literally, he's Prince, and he does what he wants. He's not going to go out there and just do a greatest hits. He'll come out and do Let's Go Crazy, and then, hey, I tell you what, I'll do a Foo Fighters cover, and then
it'll
do
be
one
better
of
than the Foo
these.
Fighters version.
And this is the thing.
Yeah.
And then they hand him up his cymbal guitar, and he does Purple Rain, and it's ridiculous. And so I'm explaining to George a bit more about Prince, and I show him one of our favorite clips on this podcast, which is the George Harrison Hall of Fame performance, where you've got Jeff Lynne, Tom Petty, George Harrison's son, all of them. They're all there performing While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Have you seen this
No.
piece of footage?
Oh,
Adele, you will cry laughing, because Prince wanders on, and as you've got Jeff Lynne, Tom Petty, and all them with their acoustic guitars doing lovely, honest versions.
They're
Prince
solid.
walks
They're
on.
solid. They're
Solid.
They're doing very well.
Yes. And I kid you not, you see the glint in Prince's
I think
eye
I might
the
have
whole
seen
time.
this.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I
And he
might have
comes
seen
on
this.
and noodles through it and makes them all look so stupid. And as he finishes, throws his guitar up in the air. Now, I've seen another angle on this, so I know what happens. But he throws his guitar in the air, and that's it. Guitar's disappeared. You don't know where it's gone, and he just wanders off. And it is the coolest, funniest thing. And George could not stop laughing / just be in awe. We watched it a few times. And I've actually seen a camera angle, and he's very lucky, because there's a roadie that literally just goes, bump, grabs the guitar out of nowhere. But most of the footage, you don't see him at all. You just see Prince.
I just assumed it was
throw
God.
the guitar in the air, and it just disappears.
I thought God just caught the guitar and went, I'll look after this for you, mate.
And so I nearly shed a tear yesterday, because that's my one regret. I never got to see Prince live.
No.
Yeah.
And you two did.
A couple of times, mate, but never mind.
Have
I
you
think
more than once?
I went down to London and saw him perform at the O2. Yeah.
Shush.
Next question, and I think you might have answered this early doors, but your most memorable gig. I don't know. Maybe that was the Fat White Family with Bill Barkley.
2015.
Anyway,
Yeah.
would that be most memorable gig, or is there another one in there?
Yeah, I would say it's probably up there. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Well, I'm going to take you straight on then, because I like this question and how it's interpreted. What's your worst gig?
The Fall.
Yes.
The Fall. Now, I love The Fall, and actually
Yes.
probably one of the best gigs I've seen is The Fall.
Yeah.
When I saw them at the Trades Club, they were fabulous. But I saw a terrible Fall show, and to be a Fall fan means you have to endure the hard times of the
Yes,
Fall.
yeah, you
badly.
do.
That's part of the deal.
Yeah.
You know, and you accept it. You accept that sometimes the Fall are not going to be great, but you're still going to go watch them again on the next tour and the next tour and the next tour.
You have to be a member of the Fall as well. That's the other.
Yes. But it's a long-term commitment. You know, you cannot be a Fall fan and just they play badly and you don't go and see them again. You know? It's like
No.
you have to be committed to the cause here. So I went to see them in the 90s on the Infotainment Scan tour. So can't remember what year it was. They played a couple of days before Christmas. So the day before Christmas Eve, I think it was. My mum had bought me a ticket for my Christmas present that year. So I was really excited to go and see them. And I turned up, and the York Barbican Centre is the worst acoustic.
Oh dear.
It's like a badminton court with a stage at the end, and the acoustics were terrible. And I saw quite a few bands there in the 90s, and it was always sounded awful, like really echoey, like horrible. Anyway, the Fall play. They've got Bricks in the band, so I thought that there was some hope that they could. Mark gets on stage, and I think he must have had a bottle of brandy before he gets on stage. He's just like staggering about, been rubbish, and he had a Christmas jumper on. I remember him wearing a Christmas jumper.
Brilliant.
And it just sounded terrible. And I don't know if it was where I was standing. I don't know if it was the York Barbican Centre made it sound particularly bad, or just they were bad. So I'm not sure. But
let's be generous, and let's just say that it was where you were standing. From where you were standing, they were awful.
It sounded horrible.
Yeah.
But the second worst gig was Amy Winehouse at Somerset House, and that was just terrible. I didn't pay. My friend worked for the record label. She got me in, and Amy Winehouse was completely paralytic. She couldn't hold a line. She was so drunk. She shouldn't have been anywhere near a stage that plastered. And actually, I think Marquis Smith was probably that plastered at that gig. So I think the two worst gigs were when people have had too much to drink and they get on the mic.
Those Amy Winehouse gigs, sadly infamous, were heartbreaking, tragic.
Yeah, I mean, it was awful. She sounded so bad. And when you know what a great singer she was, and actually she just can't hold it together. So that was kind of, it was quite depressing. It was quite sad to see her like that.
Oh man, that is sad. What's your still in the quickfire round? What's your favourite venue, if pushed?
Well, it has to be Hebden Bridge Trades Club. It's got a sprung dance floor. It's a proper old school working men's club. It's got booths, so you've got somewhere to have a nice sit down if you want to sit down. And I like that as I'm getting older. I don't always want to be standing all the way through the gig. I like a room that's square rather than rectangular. So I like a square room because I think it's a better experience for the audience.
Yeah.
But it's got a sprung dance floor, so it bounces. I saw King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard play there.
Oh, brilliant.
And they played Brixton Academy the night before, and then they come up and play the Trades, which is 180 capacity. It's sold out. I get into the venue, it's totally rammed and it's full of kids. The kids love them. They've got a really big cult following.
Yeah.
And they did that video for Rattlesnake that became a meme. Anyway, all the kids are there, packed out. Giz come onto the stage, and there's about 9 of them, and they're like, "All right, mate," because they come from Australia. They're like, they can't believe it. They're like, "What we're doing in here?" It's like they all like cram onto the stage, 9 of them, and they open with Rattlesnake, which is their biggest track. Imagine opening with that. The whole place explodes. The kids are like jumping up and down. And the dance floor starts springing up and down because it's like this enormous mosh pit. And I thought the building was going to collapse. It was so exciting. They were fantastic. And the video of that show, just look it up on YouTube.
Oh, is it on?
King Gizzard, Hebden Bridge Trades Club, Rattlesnake. You'll find it and you'll just see it like, it was
amazing.
so exciting. It was
amazing.
Right. So it has to be the Trades. I love that place. It's my second home.
It's a great venue. It's a great venue, and a sprung floor adds so much to a gig.
It does,
The Ritz in Manchester.
The Ritz has one, yeah.
It's still the old sort of ballroom floor, and Blackpool,
Ballroom. Yeah.
One of the most wonderful experiences was seeing the Chemical Brothers in Blackpool Empress Ballroom. And they come out and start with "Hey Boy, Hey Girl." Yeah,
and everyone just goes off on it.
And I kid you not, when that bass line drops, boom, boom, boom.
The
floor. I was moving, but it wasn't me propelling. You're just being propelled. That sprung floor just adds to the atmosphere.
There's something about those old venues that they just have character, and it feels right when you walk in there. So I personally love working men's clubs, any old working men's clubs, because it just feels right when you're in there. Like the Brudenell.
I was just about to say the Brudenell,
Yeah, I love the Brudenell. Like I've been going there for years, and you walk in there and it's just lovely. It feels so good when you're inside that venue. I don't like many of the modern venues. I mean, I hate the fact that there's like O2 branding on loads of these old venues. The Town and Country Club in Leeds, I used to have a real affection for it, but as soon as they stuck that branding on it, I never went back. I feel like it's like the character gets ruined. But I saw some great shows at the T&C. Once Upon a Time.
Oh, I bet you did.
But I don't know. I just really love these old venues, and I love these kind of old school places. They have more character and feeling.
Yeah. What's the most unusual gig you've been to for any reason?
Most unusual gig I've been to was by a band called Menlo Park. So this was in London, and it was at an old Freemason hall, which was next to Liverpool Street Station.
Oh yeah.
And we all had to wear cloaks. We were given like cloaks and like a hood that we had to put on, and gold masks to go into the venue. And the venue was in the venue. The gig happened in the Freemason hall in the room. And
Brilliant.
we all had these, it was all very kind of ritualistic. And it's the only time that I've ever had to dress up as an audience member.
Wow. Did you hate it or did you love it?
It was great. It was like really mystical. Like it felt really good. And the band were good as well.
Were they all fans? Were the audience all fans? Obviously.
I think we were all invited. Lots of different people were invited, and they just played the show. And
Was there not? I'm so. I would love it, but was there not a sort of cynicism in the audience? Was there not a vibe of what?
Really, because they were kind of a jazz band in a way. So it was the band. It had I think Seb Rochford was in the band, who's a brilliant Scottish drummer. And I think Pete Wareham might have been in the band. He's in Melt Yourself Down and various other bands.
Yeah.
He's great saxophonist. So I think they were in that band. But yeah, I remember that being quite unusual in the sense that we had to dress up, and we were given an outfit to wear when we arrived.
Was that the
That's
limit to
brilliant.
the audience participation? Was just that,
Yeah.
or was there other stuff you had to do? Okay, well, I think I
No.
would handle that. Okay, I think anything more than that, and I'd probably leave. But I think the cloak that would be okay for me.
Yeah,
I'd be
yeah.
all right.
So I think that's the only time that's ever happened, but it was good.
You want to get yourself into a cult, Chris? Come on.
Not one that has hoods, mate. No.
Well, we're going to move you on to your fantasy festival,
Okay.
and you're curating a day.
Yes.
And I would normally ask you where you'd like it to be, but because of the way this conversation has gone, it's going to be in your favorite venue there. So it's going to be in the
Yes.
Trades Club.
It's going to be in the Trades Club, yeah.
Absolutely. And so you have one band that's going to open.
Okay.
You then have a spoken word performer. You have your second band,
Yeah.
a DJ slot, and then you've got your third and fourth band, your support almost slot, and then your headliner.
Okay.
So we're all coming
Yeah.
to Adele's Day at the Trades Club, and who is opening the day for us?
Well, I figured that because it's the beginning of the day, people don't want to be bombarded with anything too hectic early on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would open it with Alice Coltrane. I would have
Oh,
Alice
wow.
Coltrane playing.
Yeah.
I think some of my choices might be no longer alive. Is that
That's
okay?
fine.
Is that
Yeah.
allowed?
Yeah, it's fine.
Doesn't have to be people who are alive, does it?
No.
No. Yeah. So Alice Coltrane, I would have her opening because I think her sort of playing the harp and playing this sort of spiritual psychedelic music would be a nice introduction to the chaos that's going to come later on.
That's very Hebden Bridge.
It is very Hebden, yeah.
Are there any live recordings of Alice Coltrane?
There
that
probably
you-
will be, yeah.
Right. Well, so basically, you as with all our guests, you will have a page on our website which will have loads of videos of performances that you mention, and you'll have your own playlist as well. But we'll get some Alice Coltrane on there as well.
Okay.
So,
spoken word.
Yeah, who's going to be the spoken word performer?
I think it would have to be a comedian. I would want somebody who was funny. I would choose my favorite comedian, which is Richard Pryor. So I would have Richard Pryor in conversation.
What?
Well,
Yeah.
do you know what? I heard,
Wowzers.
I don't know if you saw on Twitter last week, but somebody shared a footage of a very young Richard Pryor singing. I'll try and find it, but my God, he had some pipes on him. He could sing as well. So if he was doing a bit of a stand-up set and a couple of tunes, he was really, really good. Oh, this must be from the late 60s, I think.
I just watch his routines all the time. I just think he was the funniest man ever of all time. And I truly love him from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite routine of his?
It's always the one where he does an impression of an animal, because his impressions of animals are really... So any of them where he's pretending to be his dog, like that, they are always the funniest. Or when he sets fire to himself when he's freebasing crack.
Yes.
That's
a great routine.
That's a really good one.
Mine isn't so much a routine, but it's when I saw him in Superman 3 at the cinema, and when he fell off the building and then styled it out. I think that is the moment where I first became aware of Richard Pryor and thought, I need to find more of this man. He's amazing.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, surely the audience, you're treating them. Sure. I mean, where do you go from there? I mean, where you go is to the second live band. So we've had Alice Coltrane, and then Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
And he's walked off stage, and the techs are very quickly getting the next band ready. And the next band to perform is
Dr. John.
Dr. John. That's a great choice. That's a great choice. I love that.
Yeah, I'd have Dr. John doing Gree.
Okay.
I think that would be it. I think like things are starting to build by this point.
Why Dr. John? How did you fall in love with Dr. John?
I just really love that album. I love Gree, and I think he brought in lots of different elements to his music. So he obviously had like the rhythm and blues and the jazz, but also this kind of deep, dark, mystical, psychedelic leaning. And that album is perfect. And I just think he was a great live performer at that point in his career as well. So he was doing all the kind of voodoo routine. So I'd definitely have that. I think it'd be good for the audience to have some heavy voodoo vibes.
Was he from New Orleans?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So that explains that whole kind of melting pot of styles that he had as well.
Yeah. So I think that would go down well. Definitely.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. So this is quite the day. I feel quite exhausted already. I mean, your brain would just be like, and your cheeks would be sore. Okay. We then have a DJ slot.
Yes.
Someone's gonna spin us a lovely hour-long set as we have a drink, have a dance. Who's that going to be?
I think my DJ would be somebody that no one will have heard of. And he was a guy called Tony Calypso, who used to DJ at a pub in Leeds in Chapeltown called the Hayfield, which was like a really rough pub. And Tony Calypso used to play records on a Friday, and he played really good music, and he used to play good reggae and good soul and just groovy vibes. And I would have him on. I'd have him on the decks. I don't want anyone famous.
No.
You know.
Move over, Fatboy Slim and Carl Cox.
Yeah, he had good taste. So I'd have him on because he'd be the vibe master.
Tony Calypso, master of the vibes. I love it.
He sounds amazing. Tony. Hey, Tony Calypso.
Yeah.
Is he still with us, Tony?
I have got no idea. I doubt it. He wasn't famous in his time, but those who went to the Hayfield would remember him.
Okay.
I genuinely love that local DJ, that man who, I don't know what he thought of what he did, but had that effect on you, and I'm sure other people as well. I love that. That's great.
I remember going to Ramsbottom a few years ago, and there's a pub just by the railway station. I think it's called the Railway. But anyway, on a Sunday afternoon, not in the evening, in the afternoon, there was a jazz DJ, and I've never seen a jazz DJ before. But basically, he would he had his record player, decks, maybe you'd call them decks, but it was in the way that he was playing them, it was a record player, a gramophone.
Yeah.
And he was just putting on, a bit of Acrobilk, and then he'd take that one off, and then he'd put another record on. And there was no mixing or anything like that. It was just
I love that.
Brilliant.
It was gorgeous.
Brilliant.
And then he'd play maybe something a bit modern like Miles Davis, and then something a wee bit old. So he'd put on some Scott Joplin or something, and it was just the most chilled out. Just have a pint of real ale. You've just walked the dog, and you sit down and listen to some old jumping jazz records in a pub.
It's really
in
great,
Ramsbottom.
isn't it?
Yeah.
The other thing I really love is like like in the working men's clubs, if you go to a Northern Soul night, the DJs used to introduce every record. So they'd be like, and this one is the 1962 original cut. They'd tell you what the record was, who was on it, who produced it, and then they'd play it. So you'd get a full introduction. I love that.
You're getting your money's worth there. You're getting your money's worth.
We should bring that back.
Yeah.
So it's towards the end of the night. The penultimate band are coming on. We have two more bands, penultimate and the headliner.
Tony Calypso has got the crowd to an absolute peak. Or so we think.
Everyone's on the floor.
Yeah.
Who's coming on?
I would put on at this point Betty Davis, who the queen of funk, one of the greatest performers of her generation.
Wow.
She was married to Miles Davis for 1 year. She electrified him, his whole kind of bitches brew period.
That's right.
But her albums are phenomenal. She died the other day, sadly.
Yeah, a couple of days ago, wasn't it?
But
what did she?
She died a couple of days ago. But I would have to put Betty Davis on because she slayed on the stage. She was unsurpassed. And all these performers that came after her, none of them were as good. I just think Betty ruled, so I would have her on, definitely.
Wicked.
Okay, here it is. We've got the closing act, the headliner.
The headliner has got to be The Doors.
That's how you top everything else that you put on that day. You bring Jim Morrison, Ray Manzarek and the boys on.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Like they're just like, for me, they're the band I have loved the longest in my life. I've been a hardcore Doors fan since I was a teenager. They've never left me. I never get sick of them. Live, they were phenomenal. The Hollywood Bowl performance, it's so great. Go and find it online. Go and watch it. That's how it's done. It's pure punk. It's pure garage. It's pure anarchy, theatre, joy, destruction. It's just everything. It's perfect. They were the greatest rock and roll band of all time. That's it. The Doors will headline.
You've just answered our next question, which was, who do you really wish you could have seen live, but now it's not going to be possible? I'm guessing it would be The Doors.
Absolutely, yeah. And my friend Elliot Rashman, he saw them at the Isle of Wight.
Wow.
And it's just the way he describes having seen them, and it was just like a really wonderful experience for him to hear them and to watch them play. I know somebody else who saw them as well in America. And that is pure jealousy for me. That's the one band I wish I could have seen. But there is some really good live footage of them that you can watch.
Yeah. What year was their Isle of Wight gig?
Isle of Wight must have been right towards the end, I would have thought. When did they play Isle of Wight? 70 something?
Yeah, it was either 70 or 71, I think.
Yeah.
I think it was
it was
because
late
he died early 70s anyway.
Yeah.
I went to his grave actually.
Did you go to Père Lachaise?
Yeah, I did. And I'd never been a massive Doors fan, but I was kind of drawn to it because we found ourselves there for some reason. And it was quite moving. It was really I expected it to be a bit of a, I don't know, a bit tacky and with really, but it was, I thought it was quite respectful what fans had done, and it's obviously well looked after, his grave there. So yeah, I found it quite moving actually.
Old Snake Hips himself, Jim Morrison, eh?
Yeah, very much maligned. Nobody's remotely interested in him now. Only the old folks out there like us are kind of still interested in the Doors. They're not like, the kids aren't into them at all anymore. They have no relevance to the youth in 21st century culture. They might come back at some point, but
I wonder if they do.
Kids don't listen to them anymore. We did. I listened to them when I was 15, but 15-year-olds now don't listen to the Doors.
Well, in my student halls of residence in 1994, probably every second room had a Jim Morrison or Doors poster. It was the law. You had to have that, or the angel with a fag.
Yeah, but it's just not remotely fashionable anymore.
It's going to come back, surely. I mean, we have Psych Fest and all kinds on it. The Doors of. Do you know? I'm going to make it my mission. I'm going to make sure my kids now listen to the Doors.
Yeah. I mean, you could get them to watch the terrible Oliver Stone film.
Do you think it's terrible?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I watched it again recently. I loved it when I first watched it. It was like, it opened my mind to the possibility of another life. And I thought it was really wonderful. It profoundly affected me as a teenager. But now when I watched it, it was just so fucking lumpen in parts. He's really good, actually. I think Val Kilmer did a good job as Jim.
Yeah.
Oh, a great job.
I thought he actually hats off to him, because
it's ridiculous.
He pulled it off.
Yeah.
But there was too much music in the film. And it was just too like, and this is how we wrote this song, and this is how, and it was just, they crammed too much into it. I think it was a cluttered film.
I think there aren't many Oliver Stone films that stand up to a second watch. I would say certainly not. Compared to the first time you saw it,
that's a podcast series in itself.
Yeah.
If you listen to the music, like, I don't know, like the other week I was watching, it was on TV or something, but I watched Apocalypse Now, and the opening of Apocalypse Now, they use the end.
Yeah.
In the opening sort of sequence of him asleep, and then there's the helicopter blades going round, which is the air conditioning blade on the ceiling. It's quite beautiful.
Yeah.
And like the music just is wonderful. It's a really great track. But I think somehow Oliver Stone didn't really capture the darkness. It's all a bit too silly and bright.
So a bit MTV.
It is a bit MTV, and I don't know, like I'd read the No One Here Gets Out Alive by Danny Sugarman.
Yeah.
And really, Oliver Stone's script is just an adaptation of No One Here Gets Out Alive. I mean, I have read a lot of books about the Doors. I kind of feel like the film is just a bit cheesy, but when you're a teenager, it's really exciting.
Absolutely.
So was it made for 45-year-old cynical me, or was it made for teenage me? I think it was made for teenage me, in which case it worked.
Yeah.
So maybe that's
absolutely.
What you need
And now
to do.
you're a massive fan. Now you're a massive fan.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe you need to show that to your son, the film.
Well, he's 13, so I'll probably wait.
Scenes. Yeah.
Probably
might be a little bit saucy for his age. Maybe let him watch it when he's 16.
I'll do that. My daughter can watch in a few months. So that is a great day. That is one hell of a festival that I would pay very good money to be at. Some people, I'm not sure, I think they might struggle with that question, but you have nailed it. What a performance.
Yeah.
So we're going to take you to the very, very end now. It's our last question that we ask everyone. And it's and you've already given us so many, but we're going to finish with a live recommendation. And we just keep it as loose as that, because sometimes people might just want to recommend a live album that they love, or there's just a live video or clip or something on the internet that you love, or what is your recommendation for us to go and listen to and watch?
Well, I don't really listen to live albums, although my next door neighbour used to be obsessed with them, and his entire record collection was all live albums. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Because actually for him, it was like reliving being at that gig. So, he collected live records.
Brilliant.
But no, I've never really been into them. But I do watch quite a bit of live footage online.
Yeah.
And something that I watched recently that was a live gig and I thought was really great was the Pogues at the Town and Country. I think it must have been like 88 or something.
Wow.
And it was just like this Pogues show. And it's really wonderful. It's them really at their peak, and superb, really, really superb. So go and watch the Pogues, look it up.
That's going to go on the website as well as all these other things that you've mentioned. Oh, I can't wait to put this together. It's going to be a fantastic page.
I know. It's going to be an amazing page.
Yeah. When is the release date of 10,000 Apologies?
When's it out?
It's coming out on February the 24th. So not long.
When this comes out, so is that a Thursday?
Yes.
Okay, so as this comes out on the Monday, so get your orders in now. Get your orders in. I can't wait. I really can't wait to read it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I hope you like it.
No, I know we will.
We will. Well, what a lovely chat. Really, thank you so much, Adelle. That's just been fantastic, and I'm sure everyone listening is going to be going straight to the webpage now to look back at the playlist and all the videos. And Chris, I'll see you at Adelle's festival in Hebden Bridge.
Cannot wait.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Adelle Stripe there. See what a chat. It's very predictable because I think at the end of every interview I say I could have gone on for hours. Well, I really could have. I could have gone on for days there because Adelle has seen some gigs, and listening to her talk about that Fat White Family gig in Hebden Bridge. What a story. I wish I'd been there. I'd been there.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to post a gallery on Adelle's episode page on our website, a gallery of Fat White Family performing on the NME tour in 2015. I'm actually going to re-edit the photos because I edited them back in 2015 and I can edit a little better than I did 7 years ago.
You are so much better now.
I'm so much better.
Yeah.
So I'll give them another little polish, another swing at them.
Do it.
But I'll pop them on. And I was just thinking, so the first time I met Adelle, we talked about her coming on the pod, but the first time I met her, I was photographing for Manchester Literature Festival, and it was her at home in Manchester interviewing Bobby Gillespie, Primal Scream's Bobby Gillespie, for because his autobiography had just come out, and I've forgotten what the title is, something like The Tenement Kid.
That's it, yeah.
But it meant that I was able to get the final of my trilogy of grumpy frontmen portraits. So I had already Damon Albarn looking very grumpy, and I had Brett Anderson also looking grumpy. Now, Damon was grumpy at the time. Brett wasn't. He was lovely, but it just so happened that he was looking quite stern. And but then I managed to get a portrait of Bobby Gillespie as well. And my God, he does not smile easily, that man. He was laughing and joking in the interview that Adelle did on stage. But for the portrait, well, I'll post that as well, because it's just funny. It just makes me laugh looking at it, because he's looking like a professional grump. It's funny.
He sort of is, isn't he?
Yeah,
he is.
So now I've completed that triptych of grumpy frontmen.
I love that, grumpy. Yeah, that's what you should call the exhibition, Grumpy Frontmen.
Yeah.
So yeah, huge thanks to Adelle. And just a reminder that her book, 10,000 Apologies, Fat White Family and the Miracle of Failure, that she wrote with Lias from the band, is out right now. So get your hands on it. And we definitely have to follow up. We need to get ourselves over to Hebden Bridge and get to the Trades Hall and see a gig there with Adele. That would be brilliant. We'll have you crowd surfing before you know it, Chris.
No.
So speaking of crowd surfing, your two headliners, please. So Glastonbury's got Billie Eilish on Friday, and everyone's speculating about who's going to be the Saturday and Sunday. Who would your choices be then, Christopher?
Well, I was thinking about it, and just mentioning Damon Albarn there. For all of my Britpop credentials and seeing just about every Britpop band going, I never saw Blur.
Of course,
I've seen Damon Albarn doing his solo stuff, and I've seen The Good, the Bad, and the Queen, but I've not seen Blur. So I would like to see them doing a set at full pelt.
I've got to just, only very quickly, I don't want to bore people.
This never stopped you before.
Yeah, I know. Especially, I like that. Look at you just piling in with your jokes.
Yeah.
And I want you to know, I swallowed a joke just seconds ago when you mentioned The Good, the Bad, the Queen, involving Prince Philip, Prince Andrew, and the Queen. But I won't.
Yeah, probably for the best there,
Yeah,
I think.
So I won't make any jokes there.
No.
But, I genuinely think it is a bonkers, knowing you as I do, and any regular listener who knows our background, we both, spent a lot of time at gigs in the 90s, and there, it's mind-blowing that you never saw Blur. I don't really understand how you missed them. It's crazy.
No, I know. Well, I think...
Especially with all the festivals you went to as well.
Yeah, because I went to Tea in the Park quite a bit in the mid-90s, but it never coincided with Blur. And I think I drank some of the Oasis Kool-Aid, and it went,
Really?
Are you Oasis, are you Blur? And I went, no, I'm Oasis, obviously, because I was an idiot.
Well, you're very much a sort of stereotypical Parker wearing football fan, love a good scrap of a night.
I can't get enough of the scrapping. I cannot get enough of the scrapping. So, yeah, not with my knees.
No, not with my knees. Oh, me swollen knuckles.
Not with the sciatica, no. No,
not
so
with my arthritis.
It just never happened. And I would travel all over the place to see Oasis, but it just never happened with Blur, and I really regret it. So yeah, they would be playing on the Saturday night.
In the past 2 weeks, there have been rumbles online that they are going to reform.
Really?
And yeah. What better way to announce that than a headline slot at Glastonbury? That would be. Yeah. That would actually be, the way to do it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think from a Glastonbury point of view, Nick and Emily, you want to impress, man. Oh, by the way, we've got a Blur headline reunion gig. That would be immense. I would be clapping loudly at that one. Okay, so Blur Saturday, and then who would you have Sunday night? And let me just say, by the way, acknowledge, because it would be wrong of me, because Glastonbury have also announced Diana Ross, but they've also announced Little Sims headline in the West Hot stage, because Glastonbury absolutely isn't all about the pyramid stage. So for me, where I'll be going, whatever night she's headlining that, I'll be off to see Little Sims. So I just want to acknowledge that in case someone goes, well, someone else has been announced, and you're absolutely right, it's Little Sims. So Sunday, who's your headliner then?
It might be joint headliners, kind of for a bit of party chaos.
Not letting you. I'm not letting you.
All right, well, I'd finish with Chaos then, and I would go with Devo.
Oh man, you love Devo, don't you?
I do, and I'd love Mother's Bow, the stuff. So I first got onto his stuff after The Life Aquatic came out. The Wes Anderson, and so he scored that, but also there was a couple of Devo tunes on there, and I've just watched bits and bobs on YouTube, and I'd love to see them live. I think
it would be great, wouldn't it?
Crazy. Yeah,
I think they're one of those bands that, whether you're a big fan or not, if you're a fan of live music, you sort of have to see them. I feel like, I need to see them live. I need to experience that.
And the other band that I was going to choose, but I'm not allowed to, apparently.
Yeah, you're not allowed. No.
And it's a shame, because they would have been great.
They can go on before Devo.
Well, that was what I was planning, yeah.
Yeah, but even that's...
Real party band, and then followed by some chaos. B-52s, because again, looking on YouTube from the stuff in the early 80s, they just look amazing. They look amazing. So yeah, it would probably be B-52s followed by Devo.
I mean, I don't know why you're not curating your own festival, Chris.
Yeah, I know, in San Francisco.
Exactly. Brilliant. Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did, because Adele is just brilliant, and huge thanks again to Adele.
Yeah.
And keep in touch with us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Gig Stories Pod.
Yeah, check out the Twitter, because that is the only place that will be posting the daily Wordle.
Gig Stories Wordle.
Yeah.
Will it be ZZ Top?
We're going to be running with this for as long as is possible. And
for as long as Chris can think of bands with 5 letters, or he can manipulate it.
I'm good for at least the next 2 weeks, but you'll be cursing me for some of them. And in fact, yeah, the one that I put on today, yeah, you're probably going to be cursing me for that one. But
right,
anyway.
Come on, everyone. Let's end this and get on to the Gig Stories Wordle. Right, see you next time. See you later.
See you later. Bye.